Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds here, back again. This week we're talking top 12 fantasy football running backs, not Dynasty running backs, who we think will finish the season as running back ones.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate. There were lots of guys I wanted to get in, but there's only 12 spots.
You all think I might not be able to count to 12, but I'm about to prove you wrong.
Ready, set, hut, hut.
Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, and my fellow nerd, Garret Bryce.
How's it going?
It's going swell. And Jared Wackerly producing.
Hello.
And Matt Steck at home with explosive diarrhea. Of the mouth. Poor guy. He's not feeling too good. Had his birthday the other day, and now he's sick. Sick and tired of getting old.
Well, I feel that.
Looks better than me, at least.
Most people.
Yeah.
I guess. I'm glad he's sick.
You deserve it.
Take that. We're back talking. So we're gonna this week and next week we're gonna give our top 12 positional players, right? Like who
going
do we
into the
think
season
is going to be top 12. This show we're going to cover running backs. Nerd Herd show we're going to cover quarterbacks. Next week wide receivers and then tight ends.
Right.
We're going to cover that. Who do we just think is going to finish as the wide receiver ones, running back ones? Then we're going to do our bold prediction show. That's always a fun.
it's a favorite.
A classic miss. We're going to miss show. You know,
If you get like two of those, you're like, I did so good on my bold predictions.
yeah, but they're fun. It's like it's kind of going out there like, hey, I think this guy has a path to do this, right?
Sure.
Like Gus Edwards is announced he's on the pup. Like there's a path for J.K. Dobbins to be a running back one.
I remember one of mine last year, and it was like so close yet so far. I had Robert Woods finishes as a top 5 receiver. So close, but so far.
Got a little boop.
It was
ahead, Rob.
Cooper Kupp. He crushed.
Yeah,
Picked the wrong receiver.
More than crushed.
More than crushed.
Yeah.
Had I gone with the other receiver, would have had it.
So, yeah, then guess what? After that, it's kickoff season. Then we're in
Can't wait.
in-season mode. It's always like those shows are like, they're fun. Talking about everybody gets hurt every single week.
Oh, my
where we're
gosh.
at. But, it's
War of nutrition.
It's full. It's full of like buys and sells. It's just in season such a bull rush of buys and sells.
It is
in Dynasty.
Well, and last year at this point, we had already lost a bunch of key players. I mean, we had already had Dobbins, Akers, and I think ETN had already gone down by this point too.
Yep.
By week 2, we had lost all those guys already. So I don't want to jinx it and say like, oh, we're doing good. But
we are doing good.
But we are
so
doing
far.
good.
We haven't
so
lost
far.
any major star yet.
We haven't.
Somebody's
And
for
now we're
sure
gonna lose like
hurt
4 this week.
Yeah, for sure. So it's going to be an exciting year. Approaching one of the bigger draft classes. We've been spoiled rotten with these draft classes lately, but this should be a really massive draft class. It's going to be fun. Aren't they all fun?
Oh, dude, every year as the season gets closer, I'm like, I think this is the most excited I've ever been. It's not. I'm just as excited every year, but it just that anticipation builds up, and there's all those like key players, your my guys, your sleepers that you're like really wanting to see hit, and you're watching like a hawk, and half of them disappoint, and it's the cycle of fantasy.
We're entering our 9th season doing the Dynasty Nerds podcast.
Holy cow.
9th season. So after 23 classes, we enter our 10th year.
4th one. So I've been around for almost half now.
Okay, almost. You're establishing yourself.
Established.
Yeah, you're coming here. It'd be weird. Yeah, it's been so long since you haven't been here. The first day you came.
That's right.
So before we get into that, and of course, with our bonus episode, we have a good football code going on for the Dynasty Nerds Nerd Herd. The code is football. Before the season kicks off, 15% off. DynastyNerds.com. We have all kinds of fun stuff up there. Film room's gonna start being updated here in the next month or so.
I literally cut a player today.
Nice. Out of all 22 film in there.
Tank Bigsby.
Okay.
Yep. Against Utah. So it was their bowl game.
And Dynasty GM, which is about to get a major facelift. Like we had a big meeting last night going over the GM, what's getting added. It's gonna be a slow rollout, but the initial rollout's gonna be real nice too. Updated. Everything's going to an app as well.
And people have been asking for that for years, basically since it came out.
If you have the mock draft app,
You already have it.
you have the app. It's going to be updated on there.
That's exciting. Like we'll be the first
Super
almost
exciting.
entire Dynasty integrated website, podcast, everything on an app, which is great. And, trying to really come out with some new algorithms to really narrow down the player values, to update the trade calculator, trying to make it one of the best in the business. A lot of stuff going on here behind the scenes. So we're excited. Almost excited about our friends over at Prize Picks. What I'm excited about Prize Picks is the season's about to kick off. And yes, Prize Picks is a prop bet site where you can make bets on 2 to 5 players, not bets, but like prop bets at least, on over and unders of players of what they will or what they will not do. And of course they have soccer, they have football, they have baseball. Well, we love football, right? So I'm real excited about some of these over-unders in the NFL. So I can start getting some real good action. I'm going to New York this week. I'm going to make a couple future bets myself on Prize Picks. I'm real excited. I'll come back next week and tell you what those bets were. Probably every bet we talked about last week, those were all locks.
Probably making those.
I got that video.
I wonder if they've changed it all, if those lines have moved.
Christian McCaffrey over under 925.5.
Over.
Yeah, I'll take the over on that for sure. I mean, what is Chuba Hubbard going to cut into that? No, 925 yards and healthy. I'll take the rushing yards over that.
Saquon Barkley's at 875.5.
Over.
Yeah, over.
I'm liking these.
I mean, but again, running backs, you're always risking injury, but like you can't bet the injury. I'm going to take the over on that as well.
If you're a guy like us, we like to root for these players. So chances are we're going to like lean towards the overs more often than not. But I was listening to somebody talking about the difference, how you can take advantage of the differences in like the different sports books. So like right now, DraftKings, I believe it is, their over-unders on like rushing yards and passing yards and stuff like that is about 10% or so higher than Prediction Strike. So
Prize
Picks. So if you're a guy that likes to compare and go through that
Arbitrage. A lot of people do that.
Yeah. So Prize Picks is a great place.
I'm not gonna lie. A lot of these over-unders, we're taking over. We've given you 6 over the last 2 weeks on overs on Prize Picks. You can go in here and bet all 6 to win big time, up to 10 times your money, and then go in there and kind of mix it up, right? Kind of, it's like your DFS lineup. Like, okay, this is a lock. I'm gonna mix it with this lock and this lock, and then mix them up, and then come away like super rich, and like we'll celebrate on your yacht. You know what I mean? Like let's do this together. Prize Picks, get on there. Use the promo code NERDS. They're gonna give you 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So you're gonna gamble with free money right out the gate. And on top of that, we're still currently giving away up until the season starts these fresh Dynasty Nerds t-shirts, the most comfortable t-shirt in the world. I'm rocking the Bengals. You're rocking the Steelers right now.
You have to make a bet. So you have to fill in the promo code NERDS, and you have to make a bet, and then we will verify your email address. Fill out the form in the show notes of the podcast. You just click the link and fill out your information. We'll get the shirt shipped out as soon as we verify it.
I shipped out a whole bunch yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah, so they're be coming your way, and it's just a good way to get. Listen, it's a good way to get some sweet gear. It's a good way to make some good cash. It's a good way to support our sponsors.
Did you do it, or did you send Ashley to the USPS again?
I've never sent her to USPS. I always go there and just wait. I know the guys by first name. Let me tell you that. She always tells me, like, why don't you buy the thing that makes the printers, the labels for you in the shipping? And I'm like, yeah, everybody says it to me, but now I've been doing it so long.
That's your buddy now. You guys are friends.
I should just give you one.
Yeah, I do need one. It would help me out a ton. It's like, but then I was like, they got to learn new technology.
That's
true.
Not
Never
my
bag.
Mind. Yeah, no, we don't want you doing that.
No, it would save me so much time. It would save me so much time.
So much.
But in the meantime,
running backs?
Jump on there. Let's jump into our top 12 running backs. Get the Prize Picks. Make that bet. Get some DynastyNerds.com action. Promo code football too. Let's get into our top 12. How do you want to go about?
Why don't you?
We have no idea who we have in the top 12.
We're flying blind here. I'm curious to see how many we have in common, and roughly where they're at. Because you said you did not have a hard time with yours, right?
I mean, there's guys I wanted to sneak in.
I had a very difficult time. I have switched.
And sorry. This is for this season, right?
This is for this season.
2022 season.
These are not
Dynasty long-term.
This is like almost like a redraft show.
Okay. It is.
Look at us, redraft guys.
Look at that, redraft nerds.
Look out, Matthew Berry.
Got him. But I had a really difficult time. I switched out the number 12 player like 5 times.
I got my guy in at 12.
I got my guy in at 12 too.
I just think I don't know how he does not finish as running back 1. So you want to give me my whole top 12 out of the gate?
Give me your top 3, and then I'll give you my top 3.
Ooh, let's sneak our way.
Start at 12 and work our way back. Yeah.
No, because that's easy.
Because then you know for sure who's going to be at the top.
The mystery's at the bottom. The top's the easy. I had an easy part of the top. I was just kind of putting one against the other.
Fine.
All right, here's my top 3. Are you ready?
All right.
Number 1, Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
Number 2, Jonathan Taylor.
Okay.
Number 3, Austin Eckler.
Okay, we have 2 of the same top 3.
Okay. Can I guess yours?
Yes.
Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry.
Close. So I actually did end up going Christian McCaffrey over Jonathan Taylor.
Me too.
Which is not Fantasy Pro. So I also do redraft rankings, draft rankings for Fantasy Pros every year. Do the contest and all that stuff. And I've never been like a top 10 guy, but I'm always in that like, top quarter, top third of the rankings. So I usually do pretty well.
I'm always in the top million.
Yeah. Not the last guy.
Not last.
But I ended up going Christian McCaffrey at 1. Jonathan Taylor is actually consensus 1 on there right now. But I went McCaffrey, then Taylor. Then I had Dalvin Cook at number 3.
Okay.
I'm intrigued by the Vikings offense this year. I think it's going to mean a lot of good things, a lot of pass catching opportunities for Dalvin Cook. So I went with him at 3.
Okay. I have Dalvin Cook a little bit lower. But not much.
That's kind of where I have Austin Eckler. So we might have to debate Dalvin Cook versus Austin Eckler.
I'm fair to do that. Let's start at the top. Obviously, we both have Christian McCaffrey here. Finished last year as running back 38. He only played in 7 games. Averaged 18.3 points per game, which is good for number 5 overall amongst running backs. I mean, this is somebody, we saw his carries come down a little bit last year, just a little bit. So McCaffrey averaging his 18.3 points last year wasn't, what we're used to seeing, where he's averaging 25, 27 points per game. But still, this is one of the number 1 PPR running backs. He's a clear 3-down running back in Carolina. We're talking about a better Carolina where the offensive line's still not great, but Baker Mayfield's coming in. They'll be the best quarterback they've had there since Cam Newton in his prime. No offense to anybody else, but Baker's going to come in there and help a little bit. DJ Moore is going to help a little bit. Robbie Anderson's going to help a little bit out there. So Christian McCaffrey will still be the centerpiece to this offense.
For sure.
The Panthers offense will move as Christian McCaffrey, moves them. And they bring in Deontay Foreman, who looked pretty good, last
Solid
year.
back.
They kind of take a little bit of that in between the tackles, rushes off of Christian McCaffrey, but he's going to come in. We saw that he was averaging right around 23, 24 touches a game last year, which is pretty solid. It's not at 30 carries. But the big thing here is we're going to see predominantly in this list as well, it's PPR running backs, right?
Yep.
Those are the guys that score a ton of points. And over the time, a Hall of Fame style running back is Christian McCaffrey. And it's hard for me to ever not pick Christian McCaffrey when he's 28 and under, not to be the number 1 overall fantasy football running back for how efficient he is in his route running, his hands, and after the catch ability. So as much as Jonathan Taylor, I love him. I love how probably the safest running back in this draft this year to take.
I would agree with that.
With all this talk, and I know he showed us in a big way that he's viable in the passing game. How much they're talking up Nyheim Hines, how much they paid Nyheim Hines in the past as well. I think they will use him enough just to eat in Jonathan Taylor's pass catching sessions here or his overall receptions to give Christian McCaffrey the crown if they're healthy. And obviously we're talking about all these guys if they're healthy for 17 games.
Yeah, and the thing with Jonathan Taylor, he had a fantastic year last year, and I don't want to take anything away from him. We know that I've been a fan of his, so I'm not knocking him, but he did have one of the lowest point totals for the number 1 overall running back that we've had in recent memory. So typically we're looking at higher points per game than Jonathan Taylor was giving us, but we just had so many injuries last year. Guys like Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry that would have been competing with him for the top spot no longer were able to. So he just kind of got it by default when it was all said and done. Still young, still a stud, still love Jonathan Taylor, and I would easily have Jonathan Taylor over him in dynasty purposes. But for just this season, I think the pass catching, and in some ways, yes, I know it hurts Christian McCaffrey that he has a poor offensive line, but for a receiving game, that helps because Baker Mayfield has to dump it off. He has to give him the football and let him do what he's going to do with it. So in those purposes, that actually helps his fantasy value a little bit.
Oh, yeah. It's a very good point as well with the offensive line. And we don't really care about how big of a hole they're creating because that's not where he shines.
No.
Is in between the tackles.
I don't think he'll ever get over 1,200 yards rushing. I don't think he ever will.
Probably not, no. But what's good about Christian McCaffrey as well over some of these guys is when it comes to these, where we love their pass catching ability above all else, he's one of the better in between the tackles running.
Sure,
right?
he's solid. It's not that he's a detriment in there.
I mean, he's way better than like Deandre Deandre Swift between the tackles, let's say.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't even really that hard for me. Like I know Jonathan Taylor's consensus in redraft, but for me, Christian McCaffrey was an easy pick.
It's the upside.
Our ability. And that's where I was looking at for my entire list of these 12 guys is one who's a 3-down running back, right? Like, where's the path to be that running back one? You got to be in the field. You got to get the touches. It's like any other position. You got to get the opportunity to produce. So 3-down running backs obviously had the clearest path to be a running back one. Now, amongst those guys, to be a 3-down running back, who's catching the ball a ton? That's where you find your bread and butter. You will look in, year out. Guys like J.D. McKissick, Nyheim Hines, running backs along those lines that are strictly PPR guys. That's it. They're third-down running backs for the most part. They find their way into this running back one at the end of the year. There's always one of those guys because if you catch 70 footballs as a running back and you're getting about 700 yards on the season, that alone will push you to a running back one.
Right.
So for me, Christian McCaffrey is the best. You agree.
I agree.
He's your running back at one as well. We both have Jonathan Taylor at number 2, a fantastic runner. Viable in the passing game. Again, I mentioned my concerns about Nyheim Hines. Still a very good offensive line.
Right.
Anytime you run behind a guy like Quentin Nelson, you're going to be in a really good position.
Right.
So Jonathan Taylor, probably the safest running back in my eyes on this list here.
Great offensive line. He's not at Nick Chubb territory as far as pass catching. Like, he still catches quite a few passes. He's still going to be on the field a lot. And they gave him a boost in the quarterback department. So they're not going, hopefully, and a lot of it has to do with, what personnel they have on the field and things like that. But that the safeties are coming in on 3rd and short and things like that. The guys are anticipating Jonathan Taylor just getting the ball. That'll open things up now that Matt Ryan's there. Michael Pittman Jr. is another year older, so that should open things up for him a little bit. But there just was enough of a ceiling on some of these things that I think there's just really no ceiling on Christian McCaffrey at all. And I think that was just the little bit I needed to put McCaffrey above Jonathan Taylor.
And I like how you did mention that Matt Ryan will make it a little bit easier on him because the defense can't just strictly focus on stacking the box there. When you have a guy like Michael Pittman, who I think is ready to take a big step forward into the fantasy football relevant space here. We'll see whether it's Alec Pierce, who opens a big deep threat there, Paris Campbell, really shifty route runner, Mo Alley Cox, extremely athletic there, and then of course Nyheim Hines as well, who's a very, very good pass catcher running back. So Jonathan Taylor, not a lot to go there. So now
Number three.
I had Austin Eckler and you have Dalvin Cook. And to me, that's not enough to say you're wrong.
Right.
You're right. Because Dalvin Cook, for me, it's like I didn't understand where I wanted to put him as well. Because we're talking about a running back that outside of last year, where he played in 13 games last year, ended up as running back 16, was running back number 11 overall on a points per game basis at 15.9. But 2020 and 2019, running back 2 overall. A true 3-down running back. I know the Dynasty community loves Alexander Madison. And the reason you love Alexander Madison is because he produces when he gets the opportunity. Mm-hmm. For the most part, it's Dalvin Cook. And I know the new coaching staff, Kevin O'Connell, came out this year and said, hey, we don't want to take Dalvin Cook off the field.
Right.
So, the Alexander Madison usage there looks like it's going to take a slight step back and really open opportunity for Ty Chandler in 2023 as well. And yes, I love what they're doing. I love Kirk Cousins. I love a healthy Adam Thielen. I love Justin Jefferson to help Dalvin Cook. But it just came down to me with Austin Eckler for me is, again, the pass catching ability. Austin Eckler, as much as I love that offense in Minnesota, I love that offense in LA way more, with Mike Williams, with Keenan Allen, with whoever, Gerald Everett, tight end, whatever. I don't even care about the tight end, but even Josh Palmer at wide receiver, and then Austin Eckler being a running back who could run between the tackles, but again, dominates in the passing game. Justin Herbert, they're going to utilize him there because he does excel there. Every single year, he was running back number 2 overall last year, playing 16 games, was number 3 overall, averaging 21.5 points per game on a per-game basis last year. Has a really good offensive line there as well. Has absolutely. A premier quarterback, so the defense cannot stack the box against him. Their offensive line, like I said, it's fantastic. So for me, it was the PPR difference. Is Dalvin Cook viable there? Yeah, but he's not as viable as Austin Eckler. And I think I mean, Dalvin Cook was number 1 running back overall. It's not going to shock anybody.
No, he's been a top 5 guy before. I think the thing for me, these guys are kind of on the opposite ends of touchdown variance last year. Dalvin Cook, his lowest touchdown total in years as far as rushing touchdowns. He only had 6 last year, where he was 12 and 13 the years before that. Whereas Austin Eckler was never a guy that scored many touchdowns. That was never a big part of his game. He had 12 rushing touchdowns last year. They bring in Isaiah Spiller. I think that's the guy that they've been looking for a while, for that in between the tackles. Not that they won't ever use Austin Eckler there, but I think they want to take some of those hits off of Austin Eckler and use him as the weapon that he is, which he's still going to get tons of points because of the receptions. I just think he's going to lose some. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if those touchdown numbers flipped. You know, if Dalvin Cook had 12 rushing touchdowns this year and Austin Eckler had 6 rushing touchdowns this year, it wouldn't surprise me in the least. So that's kind of the reason for that for me.
So I looked at with the AFC West for how powerful that division is. You know, arguably the best in football, with a lot of close games coming down the end of the game. Some hurry off offenses before the half and at the end of the games. It's going to put Austin Eckler in some really good positions to get a lot of these dump off passes from a guy like Justin Herbert, who when you got to have Mike Williams, and definitely when you're trying to get downfield quick, and you got Josh Palmer out there as well, who's had an excellent camp. I put a tweet out there. He's a great dynasty buy right now. Player we were talking about last year looked really good. And Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, to spread that offense out, open up the middle for a guy like Austin Eckler. Yeah. Here's a pass. He's going to get you 6 yards. Quick, hurry up, let's go again. I think Austin Eckler is primed again because of the offense he's in, an opportunity he will be in to just dominate those reception points again. Same thing what I love about Christian McCaffrey. Like, these running backs always find themselves at the top, if they can stay healthy, because they catch so many footballs. And their rushing games are just little like sprinkles on top, right? Like, we need Dalvin Cook to dominate the ground, which we know he can do.
Right.
But to me, he's not even the best on the ground runner in the NFL. Like, he's not even up there on there, right? Like,
I would say he's top 5.
Oh, I'm not going to argue that. Yeah. I'm not going to argue that. But top 5, like, Nick Chubb is arguably the best runner
Derrick
of the football.
Henry right up there as well.
Yeah. Derrick Henry, number 2, Jonathan Taylor, number 3. Or however you want to put those top 3. Like, we can agree that Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, and
Derrick Henry are the best pure runners.
Best pure runners in the NFL. I don't have Nick Chubb in my top 12.
I ended up not getting him in either.
Get him in.
I tried. He was one of the ones I was talking about that I was, for a second, he was in there. But the fact that Kareem Hunt is still a part of this team, there was rumors he could be traded. Had he been traded, easily would have had him in my top 12. Easily. But with him not, it's tough. And would it shock me if he ended up being running back 10 like he's done often? It wouldn't shock me in the least. On a per game basis, he's always very, very solid. But there's just a lower ceiling for a guy like Nick Chubb, and assuming health from these guys, and that's kind of what's propelled him into the top 10, top 8 before, was other guys getting hurt. So if he stays healthy, he'll probably get in there. But it's just a question of who gets hurt to not be in there.
Yeah, I thought about Nick Chubb just because with the Jacoby Brissett starting 11 games, like, they're going to run this ton out of the ball.
For sure.
And all the talk here in Cleveland is, even though Kareem Hunt is dissatisfied with his contract and kind of had that 2-day hold in, is they're going to use him a ton too and put him in position to get a big contract next year for somebody else because they love his talent. So who'd you have? So you had at number 3 Dalvin Cook.
Correct.
I had Dalvin Cook at number 5.
Okay.
Who'd you have at 4?
All right, so 4, 5, 6 for me.
Give me your 4, 5, 6. And I'll give you my 4, 5, 6.
All right, 4, 5, 6 for me. I had at 4, I had Derrick Henry.
Me too.
At 5, I had Joe Mixon. And then at 6, I had Austin Eckler, who we talked about just a second ago.
Okay. At 4, I had Derrick Henry.
Okay.
At 5, I had Dalvin Cook. At number 6, I had Najee Harris.
Okay. Where'd Joe Mixon end up for you?
Joe Mixon ended up at running back number 11.
Ooh.
Here's why.
Okay, yeah, because I'm curious about this.
I love that they upgraded the offensive line there in Cincinnati. I love...
By a lot.
Yeah, by a lot. I love that they bring Hayden Hurst in at tight end.
Mm-hmm.
I love that the receiving core is arguably the best receiving core in the NFL with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. I love everything they did.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that really concerned me, and I didn't know how to look at this with Joe Mixon, was where he finished as running back 4 overall last year in 16 games. Averaged 18 points again. Good for number 7 overall. Again, a running back that really benefited from being healthy all year long.
Mm-hmm.
I loved what he did at the end of the season with his pass catching ability,
mm-hmm.
which they really brought him out. I know they said they want to bring him out, but like looking at his pass protection numbers and what he was doing on third down, they were not good last year. Right. And they got to protect Joe Mixon. So if he's not going to be in there as much on third down, and I'm not 100% sure on that yet, 100%, because his pass blocking was just not that good.
Sure.
Last year, and that's somewhat of a concern. There's a reason in the Super Bowl when they were making that final 2-minute push, and people were like, "Why isn't Joe Mixon on the field? It's Samaje Perine." It's because Joe Mixon can't pass protect.
Right.
Well, we say the same thing about these rookies coming out, right? Can they pass protect? It's when we're watching film, can we do that? Because if they don't, they can't beat on third downs, hurts their opportunity to score points, hurts their PPR ability, right? PPR ability. All comes back to these running backs. So if that could hurt Joe Mixon, there's just other running backs here that you'll see my list ahead of them that are all in position to do just that. The dominant pass catching ability. And there's going to be a lot more open for Joe Mixon. He finished as running back 4 last year. If he finishes running back 4 again, I'm not surprised. But that was my number one concern with Joe Mixon, to move him down to number 11.
Yeah, I have him up here at 5. And part of it you mentioned, he was running back 4 last year. And even on a points per game basis, he was better than number 3, who was Najee Harris last year, because he did miss 1 game. When you're able to put up those kind of numbers on an ascending team, and they already didn't use him a ton on third down last year. They used him some. So I don't think the role for him changes at all this year. I think it's the exact same role where he's out there sometimes. He will get some pass attempts or pass receptions, but it's not going to be a ton. We're talking 30, maybe at the most 40. But he's not going to be in the 60s, 70s, 80s like some of these other guys will. But they do so much on the ground. They like running the football. And that offensive line, I think that's the big thing for me. Those holes he was talking about it in camp. He's like, I've never seen holes like this. So if now, those 2-yard gains are turning into 3 and 4 yard gains, and we're seeing the trickle effect. I just can't see him falling outside of the top 5 or 6 guys for me, with basically the same role, just better pieces.
I'm just wondering if they're going to throw the ball a little bit more this year. Like, I wonder if they're going to let Joe Burrow take a step forward. I mean, with how good Jamar Chase looked last year, for how good he's looked in camp right now, you should throw the football more. So, again, throwing the football more, third down, Joe. I have him as my running back 11, and honestly, for most of these guys, any of these guys can finish in the top. Like, where do you have them at number?
I have him at 5.
Yeah. So if any, from 11 to 5, there's no huge discrepancy there.
Yeah.
I like him. He's a running back 1 of mine.
That is, and I think that was part of the reason that this made it so difficult for me, because you're right. My number 11 running back, basically to my number 3 running back in Dalvin Cook, it's surprising how little difference there is. Yeah. There is a difference, but there's not a huge difference. Like, there's a tier of the top 2 guys, and there's a tier of about 8 guys, and then there's like that next tier as well.
And to be a running back 1, you have to remember there's only 12 of these. There's only 12 wide receiver 1s. That's it. There's 12. Mm-hmm. That is it. There's 12 running back 1s, and the difference can be 6 points. 20 points, right? It's a catch per game almost, is what you're talking about, a differential between these guys. So you have to nitpick. Mm-hmm. So my nitpick with Joe Mixon is simply his third down pass protection.
Sure.
That's it. It's a concern. It's a red flag. It's something I have to be slightly worried about. Like, I'm trying, same thing with, Deandre Swift. Like, I'm worried about Deandre Swift running between the tackles. Like, he's not very efficient, right? Like, he's not a big, powerful running back. He's bigger than some of these other guys, but he's just
bigger than Eckler, but yeah.
He's not as efficient. But his pass catching ability propels him much higher, because if he catches 70 footballs for 800 yards or close to 950 yards, somewhere around there, he's a running back 1. He's a high-end running back 1.
Right.
So you have to nitpick, right? Like,
for sure.
You have to nitpick to be in the top 12, because it's so close anyways to find these guys. So I have Najee Harris right after Dalvin Cook. So I have Dalvin Cook. I had Derrick Henry at 4. Let's start there, because we both
had him at 4. I don't know that there's a ton to go over with Derrick Henry. He's same offense that he was in last year with Arthur Smith. Coming off that injury, which was a significant injury, missed some time, but he did make it back for the playoff game. Didn't quite look like himself, but he was probably rushing back to get in there. Aging running back, but the thing is, when we're looking at this from a redraft perspective, this team lost its second best offensive weapon in A.J. Brown this year. So far, very mixed reviews on Treylon Burks. So I don't think they're going to be counting on him a ton early. So it's basically you have the only established receiving threat at this point.
Kyle Phillips.
is Kyle Phillips. That's right. Robert Woods. Robert Woods is the only established one. And even he isn't established with Ryan Tannehill. He's new to this team. Mm-hmm. So just all of the newness, all of that, I don't see, especially in the first 8 games or so of the season, how Derrick Henry doesn't feast. Now, will that normalize and come back to earth a little bit the second half of the year? Probably, as Burks gets into it and Phillips gets into it, and Woods builds a rapport with Tannehill. But leading up to that, I don't see how they don't just give Derrick Henry 20 to 25 carries every single game and just let him just run the rock.
Yeah, I mean, a player that's going to dominate the run game. I mean, his numbers are still sick. He was running back 22 overall. He's a running back 2. He only played 8 games last year. He was number 1 in average points per game at 24.1. And his yards per carry was down a little bit, down to 4.28 last year, but his receptions are up. Right? Like, this guy was on pace for like 39 catches last year, which is for Derrick Henry phenomenal. So with his rushing ability, being a true 3-down back, I'm worried about Derrick Henry because he's about to hit that 1,500 carry threshold about 1 game into the season. Mm-hmm. He's coming off a foot surgery, right? And he's going to be used a ton here. So he's probably more prone to injury because once these guys start getting injured, it's hard for them to stop. Definitely a running back of his stature. But assuming he's healthy, I'm not going to predict he's going to get healthy because I would be really worried about Derrick Henry getting hurt again for how much they're going to use him. But Barn being healthy, like running back forward, it's like, is that could be too low?
It could be, and especially because last year he was actually being used more in the receiving game than he had in previous years. Yeah. He had 19 receptions in 2020. He had 18 through those 8 games. Yeah. So still not eye-popping numbers by any stretch of the imagination. But if he's doubling his reception totals from, seasons where he's rushing for 2,000 yards, if he's doubling those reception totals, and I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. If anything, you'd argue he might even get a few more passing looks with the less established options here. It could be a monster season for Derrick Henry.
I will say from a dynasty perspective, I do look at that Derrick Henry as a hard sell. Like a very
absolutely.
hard sell.
Absolutely.
At being
any running back over
carry threshold
26.
Not all of them. I mean, is Austin Eckler a hard sell?
For me.
Really?
Yeah.
He's a sell. To me, he's not a hard sell.
I really do worry about that regression with Isaiah Spiller. I really do worry about that on the ground.
But he has a PPR back. Like
he does.
Lean on.
He does.
That's what you can lean on that, right?
You can.
You could be a mid-range running back 2 on that and still hold a good value. Now,
for sure.
Austin Eckler's value is worth way more than that, but still.
Right.
Derrick Henry, once he loses his rushing ability, it's sayonara, senorita.
For sure. For sure.
I had Dalvin Cook at number 5. We talked about that.
Yeah.
I had Najee Harris at 6. Where did you have him on your overall top 12 list?
So it seemed like I neglected him because I didn't have him in the top 6. I have him at 7.
Okay, so we're still really close.
We're still extremely, extremely close. I think the main worry for Najee Harris is that offensive line. Right now, PFF has it ranked as the 30th offensive line coming into the season. As far as money they've invested into the offensive line, it is the lowest amount of money out of any NFL team that has invested in their offensive line for this season.
$12.1 million.
It's sad. It's sad how little they've put into this offensive line. You have a rookie quarterback. We'll see if he ends up being the starter. He's played well.
So good.
But it could easily still be Mitch Trubisky. But either way.
But it's not like Big Ben's out there lighting the world on fire last year anyways.
Big Ben was a benefit, though, to Najee Harris because he was checking it down so much. We'll see if these guys are willing to do that. Typically, the young quarterbacks like to run, like to chuck it downfield, things like that. So we'll see. It's typically these more, the Matt Ryans, the Drew Breeses, the Tom Brady's that tend to check it down a little bit more. And that's exactly what Roethlisberger did last year. And Najee led the league in receptions from the running back position. So that would be my only.
Najee led the league in receptions last year?
Mm-hmm. At the running back position.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know. I thought it was J.D. McKissick.
Nope. It was either the most receptions or the most targets. It was one of the two. Okay. Jared, could you look at that real quick while we're talking about? Yeah,
he finished the season as running back 3, so they had to be there. I know he wasn't super efficient in his numbers and his metrics. Number 8 overall on an average per game. He averaged 17.7 points per game. Mm-hmm. The offensive line's terrible, which does hurt him a little bit here too. But he's a true 3-down running back.
Was first with 74. Eckler was 2, 70. Fournette was 3 with 69.
So I'm probably a year behind.
Swift
might be a year
is 62 with 4.
Yeah. Oh, so Najee led it in targets.
Yep.
Nice.
So he was loved there. So that's the thing that I do worry about is that if that regresses to the mean at all, how much does that hurt him? But we do expect him to do a lot on the ground. You're right. He's a 3-down back, and touches are king.
And I think
McKissick was second in 2020.
2020, that's what it was.
That makes sense.
And then, if they do bring in Kenny Pickett at some point, if it is Mitch Trubisky, they're still going to rely on this run game a ton. I know they got some really good receivers. George Pickens looks like the next Hall of Famer. Deontay Johnson's got a really good contract. They have Claypool there. They have Pat Freiermuth, who's looked really good in the preseason as well.
George Pickens looks like a Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah. Next Andre Johnson.
I think they already enshrined him, actually.
Yeah, his gold jacket's already getting shipped via UPS. So, but Najee is going to be same thing. A ton of carries. I think even this year they're going to rely on Najee Harris a ton, and they're going to ride him right into the ground because they're going to need to. They have to rely on him for this offense to work. Definitely in the AFC North, it's going to be a ground and pound division. Once you get to wintertime, so I like Najee Harris at 6. I can see him finishing a little bit lower. Depends how the Steelers roll, but I think this is a
lock for RB1 though.
The touches are going to be king for him. He's one that, again, he falls in that category of who are the running backs that don't come off the field.
Yep.
Because those people are automatically locked in as running back ones for me.
Right.
They're getting the touches. So that's where Najee Harris falls off. So him finishing as running back 3 overall last year, it's just a slight dip down at him overall.
And it's more of where he was points per game wise, as opposed to overall.
Yeah, averaging 23 touches per game, which is you can't ask for much more than that. Right?
Anything over 20 you're thrilled with.
So we got our top 6 in.
Right.
Here.
And before we get to the rest, they're back.
Oh, our friends. Season's back. The football season's back, so our friends are back.
Our friends are back. Guess who it is? It's Prediction Strike. Prediction Strike is, what's that?
Nothing.
Prediction Strike is back. And, we're talking about all of these running backs, guys, that we want to make sure that we get that share of, that player share. Well, you know what? Guess what? On Prediction Strike, we'll actually give you an opportunity to get a free player share. That's right. Promo code Dynasty over at Prediction Strike. You will get a free share of a player. Look, it's like the stock market over there. You want to buy low, sell high, find the right peak, the right opportunity to get these players, these young guns. And look, most of the guys we're talking about right now are already pretty expensive, because they're expected to be RB1s.
I actually pulled like the top 8 prices.
I want the price on Zamir White.
Jonathan Taylor is $11.56. CMC's $14.95. Dalvin Cook's $5.94.
No thanks.
Derrick Henry's $28.16.
Oh, sell that all day.
Oh, yeah.
Eckler's $5.52.
Okay.
Najee's $6.15. So there's some opportunity here.
How much is Zamir White? Look that up.
All right, I'll look it up.
I'll tell you what. If you've been hearing us talk about Prediction Strike for over a year.
Yep.
And so obviously they're sticking around as an advertising partner. You want to know why? Because we crushed Prediction Strike because Dynasty players have such a leg up on these players because they know. Because listen, the market stays pretty flat in the offseason because there's not a lot to adjust the price on, right?
Right.
And then in season, we see their stocks grow and dive, and Dynasty players have such an edge to make some really good coin here.
Stocks move based on how players hit their fantasy projections and how the user base is buying and selling players. Zamir White's not available yet.
He's not even available yet?
Whoa.
He's going to come in so cheap, and there's such a clear path. They just cut Kenyon Drake.
I know. I saw that too.
Who they literally gave like $5 million guarantee to. And then that's why Matt liked him as a buy because they love the pass catcher running back, which is great for. I know they have Amir Abdullah, but it's great for Josh Jacobs owners. Yeah. But they're going to use Josh Jacobs a little bit more in the third down role. Guess who's going to get some more carries in between the tackles? Zamir White.
I was surprised how much they actually used Zamir White in the receiving game, like in the preseason games too, because that's not his strong point. But he looked just fine doing it. So
he's a player I'm looking at, Zamir White.
So different sport. I bought 15 shares of Evan Mobley at $4.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Giannis is at 62. So.
Oh, jeez.
What is he still at 4 right now, Mobley?
Yeah, he's 450.
Oh, that's gonna be rising and rising.
Oh yeah.
All right, but that's our friends at Prediction Strike. Don't forget, use promo code Dynasty and you get that free share of a player.
Yeah, buy now.
Right now.
Now's the time you want to find out good value because it's all going to start changing in season. So there's players that you like, especially these rookies.
As soon as they're available, snatch them.
I would say second-year players, guys like Rashad Bateman.
Sure. Elijah Moore.
Guys along those lines that have really good chance to grow the most, right? That's what you're looking for. Guys that are ready to take a big step forward. And then guys that are rookies that you like that you could buy for pennies on a dollar that they're like 85 cents. Easily go up to $2.30.
Right.
Like
you're still making good money on
tripled your money. Almost.
Elijah Moore's $8.98. Rashad Bateman's $3.69.
Oh, Bateman's
Bateman's a good buy. It's a real good buy.
Holy cow. What's Breece Hall at? I'm curious because people are down on him after his
last game.
See, it doesn't look like they have. They don't look. Looks like they don't have
any
rookies in.
I wonder when they put him in.
Yeah,
we'll have to ask.
I'll reach out and ask.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right,
let's go. We're running back number 7. Are you ready for my 7 through
9?
9?
Yeah.
Running back number 7 overall, Deandre Swift.
Okay.
Running back number 8 overall, might be high for some people, but not for me, Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
Running back number 9, Aaron Jones.
Okay. So we're not far off. So I mentioned already that I had Najee at 7, so that's not a surprise. Yep. And then I have DeAndre Swift, and then I have Saquon Barkley.
Oh, look at us. Twins in.
So we're in order. We're just one off, basically, because of me putting Joe Mixon up there.
Where's Kamara?
But we're going to have to talk about that.
He doesn't make my top 12.
He didn't make your top 12? Oh, man, he made my top 12.
He's the player I tried to find a way in.
Aaron Jones didn't make mine, though.
I'm going to tell you why Aaron Jones made mine.
All right.
I thought Aaron Jones wouldn't be in, but then I was looking at his numbers without Devontae Adams.
They're fantastic without Adams.
Yeah, so they're, again, PPR.
But LaFleur is talking about 1A, 1A.
I know, but that means
I never want to hear a true split backfield, and that's what it's sounding like with him and A.J. Dillon.
It's just he averaged 5 catches a game without Devontae Adams.
It's huge.
And Aaron Rodgers needs somebody he could trust.
He does.
So I think there's a chance they may have him like 1A, 1. I think he's saying 1A, 1B is like anytime that A.J. Dillon's on the field, Aaron Jones is still going to be on the field.
It's definitely possible, and if that's the case, then I think it's a clear path to being a top 12.
I think Jones is going to get his carries.
See if they do actually use both simultaneously. That's what we'll have to wait and see.
I think Jones will get his carries about 10 carries a game. 10, 9, 10, 11, 12 carries a game. And I think he will be on the field when A.J. Dillon is on the field at times. But even when he's not on the field, I still look at him as somebody who's going to come in and get those PPR points. I mean, this is somebody where when Devontae Adams is in the game, he was averaging about 3.5 receptions per game. When Adams wasn't out, which wasn't a ton, I think it's going back. There's like 7 games that Adams missed. He saw his usage go up to where instead of about 15 touches per game, about 20 touches per game. Ooh. Now again, it comes down a little bit with A.J. Dillon, but where I liked the most was his 3.5 receptions per game going up a little over 5 receptions per game.
Yeah, that's huge.
So PPR again it's a huge point here.
Dude.
Aaron Rodgers likes people that he could trust. It's Aaron Jones.
I gotta interrupt you, but Michael Pittman's $2.50.
What? $2.50 on Prediction Strike?
Yeah,
dude,
I'm gonna go buy.
Use promo code Dynasty and put $100 in.
100.
Put every dollar on Michael Pittman, and that's gonna be worth $10.
I was gonna say, I don't see how that doesn't triple,
You're
quadruple
5 times your money.
Like, that's the easiest bet
I have ever heard. $2 for Michael Pittman.
$2.50, you said?
50 cents,
dude.
Yeah.
Promo code Dynasty. Deposit $100. If that's too much money for you, deposit $20. And you're going to be up $100, and then next year we'll find another guy to get you to get up on it.
And look, and if at that point you're not subscribed to the Nerd Herd, we just made you the money to subscribe to the Nerd Herd.
Oh yeah. And then if that hits, subscribe for the yearly bundle.
Now you have free money, and become a Nerd Herd member.
Yo, that's a great find, Jared.
Yes.
Get down there, find some more good values.
I'm on here.
You're
I'm all
scouring,
about this kind of stuff.
scouring. I love it. I absolutely love it.
So with Aaron Jones, I have him at running back 9. He didn't make your top 12. It's just hard for me to see.
He is at 13. So he's literally one
I think he's
off.
falling that range of about 65 to 75 catches. Mm-hmm. And I think he's at the top of the 700-yard mark this year. We're real curious how this passing game is going to pan out. Romeo Doubs has looked great. Christian Watson just came back to camp. He looked good, apparently, is what the reports
That's
are.
what they're saying, yeah.
They have Sammy Watkins there. They have Alan Lazard there. Bobby Tunyon is still a little banged up. We don't know if he's going to start the season. Right. I think Aaron Rodgers come out and said, hey, we need the best 11 players on offense out there. And right now, A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones are 2 of those best players. I think he's going to want Aaron Jones out there for his pass catching ability. I think Aaron Jones is going to strive this year in his pass catching ability. he's somebody, when I first looked at all these running backs, he was like an easy out for me. Only because of, like you said, the A.J. Dillon news.
Right.
It was like, okay, I don't want to split backfield. But there's just too much data here to say how well he does when Adams isn't playing, how viable he is in the passing game, how much he's been talked up by the coaching staff and by Aaron Rodgers in particular.
Right.
And not just his rushing ability, but his pass catching ability. So if he's going to get about 10, 11 carries per game, average about 4 yards of carrying, give me about 40 to 50 yards per game in the ground game, but then give me those 5 receptions for another 50 yards and give me about 16, 17 points per game.
Yeah.
He was running back number 11 overall last year. He averaged 15.3 points per game, which is the 13th best. So to me, being number 11 last year, right around here at 9, maybe I have him a little too high at 9, possibly, but I still see him finish as a running back 1 strictly on his receiving ability alone.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that.
That might be too high. I probably should have had him 11 where he finished last year. So
Right. And I could definitely see that in the realm of possibility. And that's why I had such a hard time with the end of this list, because there's a lot of really good players that could and probably should be included in this mix. I do worry about A.J. Dillon. I mentioned that already. But specifically around the goal line. We saw 2 years ago, Aaron Jones, led the team in goal line touches. Then it flipped last year, not by much. It went from 33 attempts for Aaron Jones inside the 20 and 41 for A.J. Dillon. If that trend continues, though, and we start to see that become 55 to 20, or something like that, that is something that worries me a little bit is, how many rushing touchdowns are we going to see from Aaron Jones? Are we going to see that number, start to slowly creep back? Are we going to see him not out there on some of those plays? So that's the only thing that really kind of pulled it back for me. But you're right. On pass catching alone, if he does get that 10 to 20% boost on targets in receiving game, that could make up for it and put him right back at, running back 11 to where we saw him before.
And touchdown regression so hard.
It is
to predict, right?
And that's why I'm looking for opportunities in there. It tells you have the best chance, but it's still it is still fluky.
Your argument why he won't and why you'd want to squeeze somebody else in is it's a very viable argument, right? Like I've already second guessed my 9, so I should have had him 11, But I think again, I just go back to that what I said about the receiving ability. So, but ahead of him, we both had Deandre Swift and Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
Swift, he's a dynasty darling, right? Last year, finished as running back 15, played 15 games, averaged 16.1, good for number 10 overall. And somebody who is, last year saw about 17 touches per game, was averaging about 6 catches per game as well. That's where he shines. DeAndre Swift in the open field is about as electric as it gets when it comes to running backs in the NFL. He's dynamic. He might as well be DeAndre Shifty because he's so good in the open field. And him catching the football, that's where his bread and butter is going to become. He's like the new Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
He's a younger version of Austin Eckler. But more dynamic in the open field.
I mean, his running back coach is talking about 1,000 and 1,000, which is not something we see very often. That's like hollowed ground to be able to do both.
That's running back 1 overall.
Exactly. The last time we saw it, didn't David Johnson do it? David Johnson, his like one season that was amazing. I believe he was 1,000 and 1,000. If not, he was really darn close. If he wasn't, he could absolutely be a guy that could get to that point. And we're talking about PFF having this as, I believe it. Let me double check, but I believe they have them ranked as the top offensive line. If not, it's in the top 5. I know
it
that
shows
for sure.
because even the preseason, like anybody who touches the ball for them,
number 3,
they look pretty good.
Yeah,
because the offensive line's just opening these holes for them. Their offensive line's fantastic. They're going to have a healthy TJ Hawkinson. They're going to have a second-year Ahmad St. Brown. They bring in a guy like DJ Shark. They have Josh Reynolds there. Another year in the offense for Jared Goff, who should help dump off the ball a ton.
For sure.
DeAndre Swift too. And like you mentioned, they don't have a lot of dynamic weapons in the passing game. And the coaches have saying, hey, you are a star player in this team. You need to touch the ball. You're up for 1,000. They're going to put DeAndre Swift in every possible position to succeed. Yep. I think this offense is going to rely on DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre Swift, even though I have him at number 7, can finish as high as number 3, number 2. Would not shock me.
Yep.
I'm real curious to see how he does in between the tackles, how many touches they're going to get, because obviously they have Jamal Williams. They like him there as well. Deandre Swift rushing metrics aren't as exciting as most of these running backs. Probably the least exciting of all top 12 running backs I have here.
It's probably
amongst running backs here. But if he can get close to, if he can get 800 rushing yards, and then listen, just get me to 1,000 receiving yards, and I don't care what you do in between the tackles.
Even if
you're a running back one.
Even if you just hit 750 and 750, 1,500 total all-purpose yards. Thrilled.
Running back 5.
Yeah. Thrilled. That'll be great.
Right there.
Yep.
And that's the position he's in. He's not a 3-down running back, but he's most likely the focal point of this offense.
Yep, I agree.
So that equals fantasy football production. And going back to the next guy as well, Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley has been one of those dynamic names to come out. His rookie year comes out, he's running back number 1 overall.
He was a star.
I think the biggest thing, we've talked about this many times with Saquon Barkley, is you have to remember where he shines. Like, he's not the most dynamic runner behind the line of scrimmage. He's good.
He's pretty good.
He's good. He's not the most dynamic, but he's pretty good.
How do you define dynamic?
Creates on his own a ton, right? Like, even with a bad offensive line. He doesn't create a lot on his own there. His yards per carry, last year he averaged, what was it?
Last year was a weird year. He was recovering from the injury.
Didn't mean to throw you off. I was just curious. Continue.
A dynamic running back is who, to me, somebody who's dynamic is going to be somebody who strives in that. Like DeAndre Swift's dynamic in an open field, right?
I think Saquon's pretty dynamic by that definition, in my opinion. But just
in open field?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, 100%. No. What I'm saying is where he strives is that. Like his passing game in the open field.
Thrives there, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's dynamic there. I was saying he's not dynamic like behind the line of scrimmage. And not all that his fault. The offensive line is so bad.
Gotcha.
It's been atrocious.
He has had a chance to, his rookie year he was great, but I think where he shines is in that passing game, right?
He feels like the definition of the Michael Scott gif of like, no doubt about it, I'm ready to get hurt again. like that's, he feels like the embodiment of that moment from The Office, because you mentioned all of the positives from his rookie year and what he can do in the open field. But most fantasy managers, especially redraft people, and that's kind of, we're talking more redraft here, have had 3 straight seasons of being disappointed. But what could be is, he's proven he can be the number 1 overall guy. And this is the best offense that he's been in, with the best offensive mind, with the best offensive line since he's been in the league. So every opportunity, everything is pointing to him being successful. And honestly, everything we've heard from camps is saying that he looks like Saquon Barkley again. And if he looks like it and he can play anywhere close to it, 9 is too low. If he's anywhere close to who he was as a rookie, 9 is too low.
And it's so far out. Again, so when Jared says what defines dynamic, right? Like when you look at some of the metrics on Saquon Barkley, it's his attempts per broken tackle. It's his yards after contact, things along those lines. Like he's at the bottom of the list amongst eligible running backs. Mm-hmm. The bottom of the list. Not
last year.
Not the middle. The bottom of the list. And that's fine.
His rookie year was much different.
He's still young, and the offensive line's not that much improved, right? It's better.
It's better.
It's not that much improved. And the weapons
they
around him.
They use a first-round pick on an offensive lineman. Typically that.
Andrew Thomas, he looked better the second half.
Well, no. This year they use one. Andrew Thomas was last year, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I like Saquon a ton. I have him as my number 8 overall running back. Mm-hmm. But when I look at him, when I said he's not as dynamic.
Evan Neal. I was trying to think who it was.
There you go. That's Alabama. Right. Where he strives is he's so dynamic in the passing game. And that's where his bread and butter is in fantasy football for me right now. So that's where I put him into this number 8 overall, because I think he will strive there. I think he will score a ton of football points. If he can get back to where he was his rookie year, of course, he was running back 1 overall. That's like saying, if Derrick Henry doesn't get hurt and he gets going, he's running back 1. Sure. There's a clear Dalvin Cook. There's a clear path for a lot of these guys to be the running back number 1 overall. So I like Saquon a ton. One of the most premier running backs to come out in a long time.
Yep.
Injury bugs have killed him. His team has killed him, but I love him in the passing game.
Yeah.
So right now, again, coming off the ACL, but he had a lot of time. I mean, he played in 14 games last year, so it wasn't like He had time to recoup. And when you look at some of these numbers, when he was, again, his broken tackles, his yards after contact, just being just not there. So a dynamic running back would create on his own with those opportunities. He would break some of those tackles. He'd make players miss.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Always come with the ACL. Guess what? We see running backs every single year come off the ACL injuries.
Sure.
And for me, Saquon's got to take a step forward this year. I believe he will. That's the
think
reason I have as my number 8 running back overall.
Yep.
And you have a number
9. So we're
pretty
just
close
one
there.
spot off basically with all those because I had Mixon higher. So that's the only difference. So
yeah, Jared, suck it.
You suck it.
all right.
Prediction strike. We'll have rookies in tomorrow, which tomorrow is Wednesday at noon.
Which is basically when you guys are listening to this.
For Devin.
So they're probably already in.
Get in there and start buying those
my
Bear
gosh.
Whites and stuff. I like throwing nickels and dimes at all the
Yeah, might as well. A lot of the rookies.
Like Alec Pierce.
I'm over here with
Zamir
my
White.
credit card out here.
He's ready.
Depositing more
Yeah,
money.
dude, get all those Michael Pittman shirts.
I
Be
know,
rich.
man. There's
Oh, this is
a
so
lot
funny.
of
All right, ready for the home stretcher?
Last 3 running backs. This is going to be the most telling of all of them.
10, 11, 12.
10, 11, 12.
This is where you get a little risky.
Risky
You want to go first?
for the biscuit. Go ahead.
You want me to go first?
I want you to go first because I want you to go first.
Tell us, Richard.
Number 10, Leonard Fournette.
Okay.
Number 11, Joe Mixon. We already talked about
We already
him.
talked about him.
The guy had to get in at number 12.
Great.
Ezekiel Elliott.
I knew it was Zeke. And I wanted to get Zeke
You
in.
guys both don't have Brees in your top 12.
I don't. I actually have him at 17.
Okay.
And I don't.
I've seen a lot of people saying he's an RB1.
Michael Carter's pretty good, too.
There's a path for it.
You love Michael.
He does
good.
look like a credit.
Yeah.
There's definitely a path
He's
for it.
good.
And we see
Yards
it happen.
Yards after contact with Michael Carter.
He's good.
To the moon.
Garrett, you can't talk.
I'm not allowed to talk?
No.
Okay.
So, Jared, what do you think about Michael Carter?
He's good.
Yeah.
He's good. Catches passes. I like
fine.
that.
He's meh.
I like Brees Hall more.
There was a running back.
Garrett, what were you going to say?
There's a running back at UNC that was much better.
Oh, God.
Which is my number 12 guy on the list. So number 10 for me, Alvin Kamara. Number 11, which I was surprised. I want to hear about Alvin Kamara, why you didn't have him in. Number 11, Leonard Fournette, Uncle Lenny, catching passes. And then number 12, Javonte Williams.
Oh, God.
I saw a path for Javonte to get in there, but just not over like.
Here's why. So I'll start with number 12 because I know this is the most hot takey, even though consensus has him at like 15. So it's not like I'm that far above
That's
consensus.
where I'd have him right around 15.
Yeah, consensus wise, he was around 15.
I would prefer. I'd have Nick Chubb higher than Javonte Williams.
Yeah, and I can see that. What sold it for me is I had Aaron Jones at 12. I had Aaron Jones at 12, and I had Javonte Williams at 13. And I'm looking at both of these guys, and if we're saying that Aaron Jones, that is going to be sharing time, is going to be a top 12 guy, why can't Javonte, who I think is a little bit better runner as far as like a true running back, I think he's actually one of the best in the league as far as a pure runner, physical guy, in an offense that is supposed to be very explosive with Russell Wilson there. And the reports that we're hearing is even Melvin Gordon is saying they want Vontae to be the guy. They want Javonte to be the main guy here. If Melvin Gordon was this massive, massive, massive part of their plan, they would have prioritized him in free agency. He ended up not getting signed for a while. So there is a little bit of homerism, a little bit of, he's one of my guys that I love in this, but in that good of an offense with his ability, what we saw last year, if he can get 60, 65, 70, somewhere in there, percent of the touches out of the backfield, I think his talent and the improved offense with a much better quarterback and Russell Wilson can put him in the top 12.
First in NFL in broken yards or in broken tackles per carry, Javonte Williams last year. So I just worry a little bit more about Russell Wilson throwing the ball a little bit more there this year, and I do worry about Melvin Gordon just enough to put the Javonte Williams right around like 15 for me.
Sure, and I have no issue with that at all.
Easily be a running back 1-2 there. This is no Javonte Williams hate whatsoever. It's just some people think that the carry load's gonna be 60-40. I don't know if it's gonna be that high. I think it's gonna be a little bit less personally. I think they're gonna throw the football a little bit more too, so it's to be a little bit.
I'm curious
less.
to see how they use him in the passing game because that could be huge as well.
Yeah.
With how much these teams in the AFC West are going to be passing, if he's used on those passing downs late in games, things like that, he could be. I mean, he could crush as far as total touches go. So that could end up being really telling. Is who's in there on a lot of those third down, who's in there on a lot of those passing down plays. Is it him? Is it Melvin Gordon? Both are capable. Javonte actually had more receiving yards at UNC than Michael Carter, who was a fantastic pass catcher. So we know he's capable. It'll be interesting to see how they're utilized.
When it came down to Williams, for me, it was just usage. So again,
fair.
Same reason, for the exact same reason I didn't have Nick Chubb in the top 12.
Right.
Javonte, and I would have had Nick Chubb ahead of Javonte Williams.
Why Kamara? I was shocked because you're on board the Kamara train typically. You know, he's been incredibly consistent.
Yes.
You've labeled him this generation's LaShawn McCoy. What did it for you?
Couple things that did it for me with Kamara. If again he finishes, I had him at like 13. Okay, so he just missed. I got it was Zeke and Kamara right there.
Right.
I couldn't find a path for Nick Chubb in there. I thought about getting freaky with like Travis Etienne possibly because it being so explosive.
Oh, see, I have Etienne way far down,
which makes sense. Elijah Mitchell was somebody who I actually considered as well, but I mean, the nuts and bolts of it was Zeke and it was Alvin Kamara. Like those were the two I was down to. And look at some of the numbers of like every time Alvin Kamara's on the field with Mark Ingram when they're both playing on the same team, like his touches are down a couple touches per game. Jameis Winston being there a little bit more, bigger arm. Michael Thomas being back, having Jarvis Landry, and then drafting Chris Olave. I think they're going to throw the ball a little bit more too and spread the wealth a little bit more. It kind of makes me a little bit worried about all the receptions there. For me, there's just enough there. Look at the metrics here with him, with Mark Ingram. Looking who they bring in, having a healthy Michael Thomas who they haven't had there in 2 years, which again, that never hurt Alvin Kamara any year he's been in the NFL. Sure. He's always been a running back one. This would be the first year that Kamara's never not been a running back one as well. Right. If this happens. But bringing in Olave, having Jarvis Landry who can keep a lot of things short and sweet as well, who's a dynamic route runner, was just enough for me to say, for everything I'm worried about Kamara, I'm not worried about Zeke, right? Like, again, Mark Ingram's probably going to get more of those in-between the tackles rushes than Alvin Kamara. So he's going to rely on his passing game. I think some of those opportunities will be down slightly. Any kind of slight down opportunity to me is going to be enough to be a bump out to, again, running back 13. Where I had Zeke Elliott there, and the reason I have Zeke Elliott there is strictly because, one, he is a between tackles runner. He is a 3-down running back. He is somebody that again, finishes as a running back one every single year. Was running back number 7 overall last year. On a per game basis, number 15, but he's always healthy. He's very viable in the passing game. I know he's easy to push aside because everybody loves Tony Pollard for how dynamic he is. The owner's coming out and saying, hey, this offense has got to go through Zeke, right? The owner's saying this. They're paying Zeke a ton of money. Right. Like Jerry Jones is one of those owners, he doesn't want to look stupid, right? Everybody talks about how stupid Jerry Jones was for giving Zeke this contract. He doesn't want to look stupid. Zeke Elliott is Dak Prescott's best friend. Zeke Elliott's very viable in the passing game. We saw last year, he started the game, the season off pretty high. He had some really good games out there. He's supposed to be in some of the best shape he's been in a while. We've seen tons of video of him looking pretty dynamic. I honestly thought having Zeke at 12 it's where I had to get him in because he could easily finish higher than this again. Right. He catches the football. He runs the football well. He's on an offense that just lost James Washington. They don't have Michael Gallup to start. So we're looking at the number 2 outside of the tight end Dalton Schultz, and then obviously you have CeeDee Lamb there, is being a rookie almost in Jalen Tolbert. Who do you think Dak's going to look at probably more to? His best friend, a reliable source he's been in the field with his entire career, and a guy like Zeke Elliott or Jalen Tolbert. I think Zeke Elliott's passing numbers, his receiving numbers, have a chance to elevate and match some of the best receiving numbers he's had his entire career, which then, if that does happen, would boost him from running back 12, probably up to running back 5, running back 4 overall if that happens. He'll get the amount of touches he needs in between the tackles. He's on a dynamic offense. He still has a really good offensive line. It's not the number 1 offensive line we've known them to have, but they're probably still top 10 in the NFL. So there's just too much of a clear path for me with Zeke Elliott that he does not finish as running back 1, where Alvin Kamara has a little bit of red flags. Like if I want to switch out Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara, I'm okay doing that and push him down. But to me, I do not see a I see zero path of a healthy Zeke Elliott not doing what he always does, and again, finishing the year as running back 1. There's no way I can keep him out for the situation he's in.
Yeah, and I think that there's a very real path. I actually even talked about it in one of my videos of guys that are currently being drafted as running back 2s that could finish as RB1s, and he was one of the ones on the list for me. So very real possibility. Alvin Kamara is in the same boat, though. I mean, he's literally done it every single year, so it's true for both of these players. The oddity about Alvin Kamara, and the reason I think he could bounce back, is he actually saw a career low in targets last year by a decent amount. If one were to assume that normalizes, if one were to assume that he gets back to his kind of traditional targets where, he's hovering close to 100 targets. He's only at 67 last year. If he gets back into that 90 or even near 100, I think he'll easily end up as an RB1 once again, because similar to Eckler, similar to Swift, similar to all these guys, that's where his bread is buttered. That is where he thrives, is in that receiving game. He's actually a very meh running back between the tackles.
I mean, how many times have you heard me say on the show, is Alvin Kamara the best running back in the NFL? No, but he's in a perfect system. He strives. And you're right. Even last year on a mad team, he was running back 8 overall.
Right. So I think he ends up getting in. But this is why I said I had such a difficult time, because I have on the outside looking in right now, I have Ezekiel Elliott. Well, in order, I have Aaron Jones. Aaron Judge is very good too, though. He could probably be good.
He's dynamic.
Yeah. I have Aaron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, Nick Chubb, James Conner, Breece Hall, J.K. Dobbins. Like, there's 6 guys right there I just gave you. Any of those guys could end up being the number 11 and 12 running back, and it wouldn't shock me in the least. So it's a very, as much as we talk about there's only 12 RB1s, and that is 100% true, and having one is so valuable. The point difference, I think, this year between running backs 18, 19 and running back 10, I don't think is going to be that.
And there's guys you even mentioned, guys like J.K. Dobbins.
He was the last one I said Dobbins.
Elijah Mitchell.
Yep.
Right? Like, clear opportunity. And let's, before you get your panties up in a bunch, let me give you the top 12 running backs in PPR last year.
Okay.
And what if we sat down and gave you this list? You'd be like, these nerds are a bunch
idiots.
Of nerds. In order, are you ready? That's how we'll close out the show. Running backs 1 through 12 in PPR leagues last year. Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, James Conner.
Okay, first 4 made sense. James Conner was, I remember, a big surprise last year.
Leonard Fournette.
Okay.
Zeke Elliott. Alvin Kamara, Cordero Patterson, Antonio Gibson, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs.
You never know.
You never know.
The year before, we had David Montgomery and James Robinson in there. Like, I mean, you truly never know. You're right. It is a war of nutrition. If these guys can stay healthy, they'll, most of these guys that we talked about have the ability and the supposed, the assumed workload to be top 12 guys, but can they stay healthy?
Yeah. Mike Davis, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, James Robinson, David Montgomery, running backs that made the list prior to that year that weren't on that list before. Everybody else made it, guys like Josh Jacobs and what. So, yeah, it's you never know, because it is who stays healthy, who gets the touches. If you're a running back and you're healthy all 17 games and you average, we saw Mike Davis do it 2 years ago.
Average 15 touches a game.
The most average running back you could possibly find, but played all the games, was running back 12.
Yep.
It's that simple. So how about we talk about some quarterbacks?
Let's do it.
Adios.
Amigos.